So, the spoilers are out for My Hero Academia manga chapter 353, and let's just say that there is a lot that goes on in this chapter, and we're just gonna dive right into the spoilers because there is so much to cover in just so little of a time, so let's do it. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Drew, and I'm here to cover the spoilers for My Hero Academia manga chapter 353, and from what we see with the spoilers, it's titled Endeavor. And let's just say that from a sort of heads up for what these spoilers are going to be covering, we're going to be covering Shoto versus Dabi. We're going to be cutting back over to Endeavor, and we're going to cut over to just some places that we haven't seen and get the locations of some main characters, both in Class 1A and Class 1B, and get to know pretty much where all of the students are from what we see with the spoilers. So yeah, this most recent chapter, from what we're seeing, it's going to be jam-packed with a lot of information that we need to cover. So let's dive right into what we're going to get in the spoilers so far in preparation for the chapter proper. Because the chapter begins with Burnin reporting on her communicator that Dabi has been detained. Upon receiving this news, all of the heroes on Kamino celebrate and praise Shoto for being able to defeat the Blue Flames. They understand that they need to be up to the task and defeat the Nomu that's still standing, so they all continue attacking. These heroes comment that they are currently into one of the luckiest blocks because they were not sent to the same place as Kunita, Gashly, or other dangerous escapees from Tartarus. So this first part of the spoilers sets up a lot, potentially foreshadowing at the idea that Dabi is actually not defeated and that they're actually in the unluckiest spot with some name drops that we're actually going to potentially see a little bit more in this chapter. But we're getting a little bit more about what's happening after Shoto quote-unquote defeats Dabi, and we get a little bit more after that with where people are and the catch up to what went down. And with the next line of the text spoilers, All Might is apparently watching the battle in the broadcasting room, almost in tears. He says that even with Deku being sent to the wrong place, the tide is in their favor, and announces to all battlefields that Shoto Todoroki has defeated Dabi, which could potentially be even more foreshadowing to the idea that he actually didn't defeat Dabi, especially with what we get later on in the chapter. But from here, we begin cutting to many of the different locations that we've actually haven't been to. Starting off with the next line of text spoilers saying that we see a new location, the ruins of Jaku Hospital, where Gigantomachia is imprisoned. It is there where Ashiro, Mineta, Kodai, Yanagi, and Hononoki are, and they are happy with the news. Mount Lady is also there and stomps on some villains while saying that she was worried about Shoto, but that in the end, he showed what he is capable of. The villains didn't expect the heroes to intercept their strategy and suddenly appear there. And it's at this moment we see the Liberation Frontier member who killed Midnight. He says that although the plan has been foiled, the heroes are just wasting human resources for nothing. This is the time for liberation, and those who try to interfere will be trampled on, like that UA teacher. And from what we get with this, not only do we get a new location and the location of certain characters, but we are also potentially building up Ashiro's fight with the person that killed Midnight. Because I know there's been a lot of talk about how we don't see the emotions of the children after the war, which we totally do. But this is going to be building up on Ashiro and her fight with this individual, mainly because she is the individual that felt the worst and the brunt of Midnight's death. And as we see later on in the text spoilers, right after he says this, Ashiro turns her gaze and Kirishima appears at her side. He apologizes for the delay and says that the evacuation has been successfully completed and now it's time for them to protect this spot with everything they've got, just like Todoroki did. So potentially we're going to be getting a fight with Ashiro as well as Kirishima against the individual that killed Midnight, and it makes sense that these characters will be here because they're the ones that discovered Midnight's body. And going into the next line of text spoilers, we're seeing that more and more we're getting new battlegrounds that we didn't see at the beginning of this war, as we have another new battleground is Takorai National Stadium, where the students took their provisional license exams. In it are Ojiro, Sato, Subura, and Sero, who appears to be worried about something. We see a few panels showing the flying UA, as well with Bakugo smiling and saying that it was obvious that Shoto would win. So we really don't get a whole lot of focus in that area where those individuals are, but we do get a little bit more focus on what's going on with Fat Gum and Aoyama in the next line of text spoilers that say that the focus shifts to the parking lot where it all started, with Fat Gum and Aoyama surrounded by flowers. They are facing Kunira, the fugitive from Tartarus mentioned at the beginning of the chapter, who analyzes their strategy. He says that they separated the villains based on capability with each hero's quirk, and the ones that didn't fit into any blocks were left at the parking lot. He doesn't know if this is trust, optimism, or naivete. So this is very interesting. We're getting to see a new warrior taking place that is apparently from Tartarus and potentially going to be the opponent for both Fat Gum and Aoyama. And from what we see a little bit later, there's some interesting symbolism and references to what Aoyama is going to be in this fight. The next line of text spoiler saying that now that Dictator has failed, he is the newest hired gun sent by All For One, in reference to Kunita. And Kunita calls Aoyama Aesop's bat, and I will get to that in the actual review proper because that is amazing. But from what we see with this text spoilers, he eventually says that all the villains left there will try to kill him, and that Aoyama responds with a simple merci. So we're setting up for the fight that Aoyama is going to have, and that he and Fat Gum are going to be fighting all of these villains, which is going to be amazing. But most likely we're going to get a little bit more from Aoyama in this final arc. And then we also get another location change to, I believe, an area that we have been to before, but not the area that was shown. And this is that the location changes again, this time to the front of the central hospital. Mike shouts that Shoto has defeated Dabi while Shoji is trying to dodge a giant spinner's attack. He doesn't believe in Dabi's defeat and thinks it's just a strategy of the heroes to boost the morale of their troops. A flashback is shown in which Dabi turns his back on All For One and says that he doesn't need new quirks, while Spinner is slowly touched by the hand of the Demon Lord. He says that Dabi is strong and has a purpose in life, very different from himself. Spinner is commanding all of the mutant soldiers from the Liberation Front and says that for their and Shigaraki's sake, they will destroy the status quo completely. Meanwhile, Shoji thinks to himself that he is proud to be of the same class as Todoroki. And this is very interesting because this is setting up something that we've known for a while, a confrontation between Spinner as well as Shoji. So we're getting that set up most likely in this chapter, as well as some confirmation about what's going on with Spinner and the idea that he's been given quirks by All For One. But all in all, what they're most likely going to do is just go and try to destroy the heroes as fast as they can. And now we're getting towards the end of the spoilers, where we're apparently going to be cutting back to Kamino, where Shoto tells Ida that he overdid it and apologizes, but Ida says that he has nothing to apologize for. Dabi wonders why he is still alive after all this, and then a luminous sphere appears on his chest. And this part of the spoilers kind of builds upon the idea of the Dabi is a phoenix theory, and that potentially he's going to get a power boost that is going to cause him to go a second round, most likely with Shoto as well as the other heroes, meaning that he wasn't completely defeated. And now we're getting towards the final parts of the spoilers, and most likely the final part of this chapter, where the last place we see in the chapter is Gunga, where Endeavor reacts to the news with an indecipherable expression. All For One wonders if it's relief, sadness, and Hawks warns Endeavor not to listen to him. All For One continues saying that ignoring Toya and pushing the responsibility to Shoto was his choice, and that at this moment he is trying to convince himself that it was the right thing to do, that heroes have many things to protect. He concludes by saying that's why you're going to lose, number one, while his fingers turn into different things. One releases black goo, another begins to grow a face, another expels a moon-shaped rings, another releases fire, and the last one becomes covered with thorns. End of chapter. So, there was a lot, and I mean a lot in this chapter. A lot of it seems to be exposition and explanation for where some characters are, but that's actually very cool because it shows that Horikoshi is going to be including everyone in this fight. Class 1A, Class 1B, other pro heroes, pro heroes that we've probably never seen, as well as villains that we've never seen, and villains that we have seen. There was a lot in this chapter, and I want to cover a lot more of it in the review proper, but we got a lot of new information and a lot of stuff to talk about for the upcoming weeks to come when it comes to how many fights we're going to see, who's going to be fighting who, what's going on with Bakugo and the other characters. We learned a fair amount in this chapter, but there's still a lot more to learn. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the spoilers for this chapter. I cannot wait for the chapter to come out proper and do a more proper review for it. So yeah, like the video if you liked it, leave a comment down below if you want to discuss what happened in this chapter, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to see more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!